Now, don't get me wrong, family. I love a good fight. I learned mixed martial arts when I was in the military. My son actually trains mixed martial arts, and we actually have someone in our family who is a professional mixed martial arts fighter in the UFC, no less. But I really want you guys to pull up a chair because I really just want to dive into this because I know people are going to have different takes. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? But we understand that, this week here, the United States of America did something it has never done in 250 years. They built a fighting cage on the south lawn of the White House, right there on the grass where presidents had welcomed kings, signed treaties, and stood with grieving families after national tragedies. They put them an 8-sided steel octagon under a giant canopy they nicknamed the Claw, and they held a professional cage fight. They called it UFC Freedom 250. It landed on June the 14th, the president's 80th birthday.
What?
The nation's birthday, the president's birthday, right there on the White House lawn in the same year we're supposed to be celebrating this country's 250th birthday.
What the hell was that all about?
Right there. He just walked out of his house. Surprised he just wasn't on the balcony, but he was a VIP member there, no less. And sitting in the front row next to the president of the United States was a billionaire. So before we get mad, before we get loud, let's slow down and ask only the question that matters here on this channel. What does this tell us about power? Who has it? Who performs it? And who's standing in the outside looking in? Because on Sunday, June 14th, 2026, for the first time in American history, the White House hosted live Ultimate Fighting Championship bouts on the South Lawn. The main event put two names I just can't pronounce because they're foreigners, unfortunately. But there was a championship lightweight title match. Thousands of people packed into the grounds despite the threats of storm. Now, granted, there were a lot of troops, okay? There were naval men and women. There were Marines. There were soldiers. There were Air Force. Total representation of our armed forces. So don't get me wrong. There was a lot of good things that I saw. And then there were some very controversial things that I saw. A cage match, blow to blow in a massive canopy, and the president celebrating no less his 80th birthday.
I'm done.
He sat in the front row as a VIP. Next to him, also front row, was Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, and of course Dana White right there in vicinity. White House hosts UFC Freedom 250 fight on Trump's 80th birthday, June 14th. Was it for the country?
No.
Even though they put it on, was it Paramount Plus, I believe, and some other networks that you had to pay for to watch? Was it for the people? Did they use your tax dollars? Yes, they did. They used your tax dollars because it was on the people's lawn. See, what people don't understand is that every single thing dealing with the federal government, you and now tax dollars have paid for it. See, all of this fraud, waste, and abuse, billion-dollar ballrooms, no one is ever talking about what happened to the wall.
I mean, my God.
What happened to the wall? No. Let's not finish the wall. Let's have a UFC championship fight on the president's lawn on his birthday. And at the same time, let's call it UFC Freedom 250, because again, we don't know if that's genuine or just a guise or disguise and a veil just so president can have his own fighting match right there in his backyard.
I'm really rich.
Right there in his back lawn. A UFC fight is not legal, by the way. Don't get me wrong, because I know a lot of people going to look at this like, what? I mean, what was wrong with this and what was wrong with that? Millions of Americans love this sport as well as I do. Believe me, I watch almost every UFC. It is one of the fastest growing things in entertainment. I watch UFC and I watch UFC 250 Freedom right there on the White House lawn, just like a lot of people did. And there's nothing wrong with a good fight night. Believe me, this isn't about the sport. It's about the stage. It's about where they choose to put this cage match and whose birthday and who they set in the best seat in the house. Why does this matter?
Why?
That lawn is not Trump's lawn. It is not any president's lawn. It belongs to you and I. It belongs to the cab driver in Houston, the nurse in Detroit, the school teacher in Jackson, the brother working 2 jobs in Atlanta. The White House is the people's house, paid for by the people. Wherever happened to we the people? No one was in outrage. No one on the Democrat side, no one on the conservative side. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any broad brashing news, but this is maintained by the people, no less. Someone's searching for your business right now. This is what they find: slow dated or just not there. So they leave for someone else. Lova builds you a real website and the app to match in days, not months. So when they find you, they stay. They book. Built right, kept running. See yours free in 48 hours. Minute before you pay a thing. Lova.dev. And went to represent all of the people. So when you take the most powerful symbolic ground in the country and you turn it into a private entertainment set for a birthday party, you are sending a very clear message. You are saying that the People's House is now a backdrop for one man's personal brand. And here's the part that should make every working family pay attention. I don't care who you are, pay attention. They market this thing under the banner of America's 250th. The semi-quincentennial, the big national birthday that's supposed to belong to all of us. This was for America. They had American shorts on. They had American stripes, American stars forever, American flags, America, 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 America. And believe me, I love to see my brothers and sisters in arms out there, but believe me when I tell you this, us in uniform, late at night, saluting fighters. Now, granted, at first, when I was looking at the fighters coming out the White House, no less, I didn't notice that beside these fighters and behind these fighters was Medal of Honor recipients. Interesting. Medal of Honor recipients behind the fighter. Why didn't the Medal of Honor recipients were in front of the fighter? Because I saw naval men and women, Marines, soldiers, airmen and women saluting what I deem to be the fighter. He's the first one out of the gate. Now, I granted, this is all about the fight, supposedly, but you put the armed forces in place. And as these fighters were coming out, they were saluting, and someone's going to allude to, hey, they wasn't saluting the fighters. They were saluting the Medal of Honor recipients. Then why not put them first? If this is about America first, if this is about celebrating the armed forces, if this is about celebrating those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and those who are still with us, those men and women who wear the Medal of Honor, why not have them to come out first?
I'm so sick of these people. Oh!
250 years of a country that was built in no small part on the backs of our ancestors. And what did the 250 get turned into? A pay-per-view spectacle wrapped around one man's 80th birthday. Yeah. When the story of this nation becomes the story of one leader, one family, that's not a celebration, family. This is a warning sign, and history has shown us that warning sign before. Because here's the bigger picture that people probably be missing, right? Look at who got the front row. No veterans. The veterans were standing up in uniform late at night. Now, granted, I've been on many details where I had to be in my dress blues or my dress greens, wherever service I was in or serving at the time. And believe me, anything like this, I know that I would have been against. Why? Why am I here 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, saluting fighter? Oh, no, you're not saluting fighter. You know, somebody would probably deflect my thought pattern. You're saluting the Medal of Honor recipients. They're still in this one group because most of them came out with either 2 or 3 people. It was the fighter, Medal of Honor recipient, and maybe like a bodyguard, Secret Service, something like that. But nevertheless, the optics of it, because again, no veterans, not the families of fallen soldiers, not the teachers, not the nurses, not the small business owners, a billionaire tech CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, and I have nothing against Meta or Mark at this particular moment, but I have to just point it out, right? Because he's the man who runs Meta, AKA Facebook and Instagram, WhatsApp, you know, the platforms that shape what hundreds of millions of people see and believe every single day. When the richest men in the country are the ones shoulder to shoulder with the president at his birthday cage match. This is not a coincidence. This is a picture of how power actually works in this country. On this channel, we always follow the money and the influence, the political action committees, also known as PACs, and also the super PACs, the corporate dollars that buy access most regular folks will never have. And here it was on full displays, no lobbyists required. You didn't need a leaked document to see who has the ear of power. You just needed to look at the seating chart. The billionaires are inside the gate in the front row. And the rest of us were watching on a screen wondering how the grocery bill got so goddamn high. That's because the federal tax dollars, how do you think all of this occurred? No. The American people didn't pay for this, Black Logic. The pay-per-view did. Paramount Plus did. UFC did. Dana White did. No, if you're having it on the White House lawn, who do you think funds the federal government? The citizens. See, here's what the national media mostly framed as a side note. On that same day, June 14th, the No Kings movement put crowds in the streets in well over 1,000 communities across the country, with organizers planning demonstrations in roughly 1,800 plus locations. Most of it was peaceful and disciplined, but in Portland, Oregon, federal agents stationed on the roof of an ICE facility met a crowd with tear gas, smoke, and flashbangs, and a few people were arrested. Now sit with the contrast for a second, because it's everything if you really point it out. On one side of the country, the White House lawn is a party with a cage and billionaire in the front row. Now, granted, I did see some soldiers in the audience, but I wonder if any of our veterans, any of our active duty, any of our reserve, any of our National Guard, do they have a seat at the VIP table? I mean, around the cage, so to speak, because almost every fighter, after they won their match, they went to go meet President Trump. Oh, what a good fight. They shook the president's hand. What a glorious, prestigious moment. Not against it. Not against any of them. Not against the fight. I'm not against UFC. I love UFC. I love seeing the fight. It's entertaining, right? I used to train. Sometimes I train with my son who's taking it. But here's the point I'm making. They're making a spectacle out of our country, and they're using our tax dollars as they do it. Did he take any of the money that he used to put that fight on the lawn to decrease grocery prices, to decrease the gas prices? Oh, that's right. We're coming up on a peace treaty here Friday, and they're going to sign it, maybe in Switzerland, I believe. I don't know. Now, on another side of the country, people who are exercising their First Amendment right to assemble are getting gas outside a federal building. Same flag, same day. Two completely different Americans. And whatever you think about either crowd, that split screen should tell you something honest about who power is throwing a party for and who power is pointing a canister of tear gas at. Now, just a year ago, on June 14, 2025, this same administration rolled tanks down the street of Washington for a military parade pegged to the Army's 250th anniversary, a parade reported to cost taxpayers up to $45 million. And that probably just was the gas. This year, the spectacle traded tanks for a cage. And I need my people, whoever they may be, to understand why this matters beyond the headlines. When leaders start needing parades, cage fights, and birthday pageants on the people's ground, it's usually because the spectacle is doing a job. I hope that none of you think that the White House is the president's White House. I don't hope you think that the president's lawn is not the people's lawn. Do not forget who funds the federal government. Can I go through the fraud, waste, and abuse of taxes in this country? Can I go through the fraud, waste, and abuse of the fraud and the scams within the tax code? I want you guys to think about this, and I'm not going to make this a financial video, but I got to get it out my head. Your business is taxed. Your employer is taxed. And then you receive your paycheck. And then if you look at it, it's taxed, Medicaid, federal tax. And if you live in a state, state tax. And then when you go out and buy something, you're taxed again. You buy a car, you're taxed again. Anything you do in this country, you are taxed. You go on a expressway, tax. You go on a toll road, tax. Why isn't it just one tax? And then they divvy it up however they need be, because the devil is in the details. All these different jurisdictions and municipalities that are tax. People who think they make six figures, ladies and gentlemen, do the math. Let's take, for instance, you're a single person and you make $100,000 a year. And you tell somebody, yeah, man, I make six figures. Ladies and gentlemen, do the math. You make anywhere between $72,000 to $75,000 as a single person making six figures. Do the math.
That's a damn shame.
See, the job is to make you feel something, awe and excitement. It's a distraction. So don't look too hard at what's happening to your wages, your services, your rights, because while the cage was getting built, the bills were still going up while the cameras were on the octagon families. While the cameras were on the octagon, families were still choosing between rent and groceries, still watching their kids' school squeeze, still getting less help and paying more for it. The show is loud on purpose. And our job, your job, family, is to keep your eyes on the quiet stuff, the budgets, the cuts, the contracts, the seating chart. That's where the real story always lives. Let me give you the full picture the way we always do here, because no single outlet is going to hand it to you straight. The right-leaning coverage frames this as patriotic fun. The Army 250. You guys are always talking about President Trump. You're always talking about the Trump administration. You're always talking about conservatism and conservatives and blah, 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 blah. America's 250th birthday. A president who loves the troops and loves a good fight night. And a country that should lighten up. The left, see, again, as we look at it from the right perspective, that's what they'll say. But then you have the left-leaning coverage. It frames it as raw, authoritarian theater. A strong man turning the people's house into a personal coliseum on his own birthday. And the center coverage mostly counts the dollars and the logistics, the canopy, the crowd, the security, everything that was involved to make these events happen. You think it came out of President Trump's pocket? You think it came out of Dana White's pocket? You think it came out of Paramount Plus pocket? Hell no! Here's what almost nobody is centering. What does this mean for regular Black folks, regular white folks, regular Asian folks, working families who will never see the front row, regular Hispanic folks? Because the lesson isn't fight. The lesson isn't that fight is bad or the party is bad. The lesson is that access is being concentrated into fewer hands at higher altitudes of wealth. And the symbols of the whole nation are being built around one personality when that happens. See, the people with the least power are always the last to be invited and the first to be forgotten. That's not a left or right point. That's just a power point. And power is the only thing we keep our eyes on here. So again, the big picture. A cage on the lawn, a billionaire in the front row, tear gas in Portland, and a nation's 250th birthday folded into one man's 80th birthday. These aren't separate little stories. They're all connected by the same thread. Power. Who has it? Who performs it? Who gets left outside the gate? And that's why we're going to keep watching this stuff the cameras skip past. The budgets, the access, the quiet decisions made while the crowd is cheering. Drop your thoughts in the comment sections below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with somebody who needs to hear the truth behind the headlines, because this show is loud. It's a little loud, family, but the truth is quiet, and we're going to keep listening for it.